Hey everyone, it's Josh. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend with your families, and happy Hanukkah to everybody celebrating Hanukkah. I am in Upper Saddle River today, actually at the library, which is beautiful. Perfect backdrop. If you can't see, there's a little stream behind us. And I'm here with Adrienne Bitar, whose mother Agnes who lives with her right now. She's going to tell a little bit of a story, but really this all goes back to how we can help with our veterans. Her father, George Bitar, who's Petty Officer Bitar, served in World War II in the Navy, was injured and came home, protected our great country and our great democracy, the greatest generation. We are all very, very grateful to our veterans, and we should always get their backs when they come home. And we did with Petty Officer Bitar for his life, and when he passed, you're going to hear from a second from Adrienne about this, when he passed away, the surviving spouse is also supposed to be taken care of. That's what we do, as we should. In this case, there were some challenges, and Adrienne called our office, and so we're going to hear a little bit today from her. Adrienne, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us.
Thank you, Congressman, for the invitation. And I appreciate getting the message out because the veterans are important to us. My dad did serve in World War II in the Navy. He did become 100% disabled for loss of hearing. He served on the USS Nantahala, which was an oil tanker in the middle of the Pacific. And if you know anything about the oil tankers, their job was to fuel the ships of the U.S. in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They would actually pull up alongside his ship and fuel. So his ship was always a target. And you sink that ship, you sink the oil that fuels the other ships. So he lost his hearing. He became 100% disabled because of the bombs that were going off so close to his ship. His ship was always flanked to protect, but he didn't protect from the bombs. Rewind, took me almost 4 years compensation disability, but you can get it. It's a matter of accessing the VA system. In June 11th, a few days short of his 70th year anniversary with my mom.
Wow.
And at that time, I knew that my mom was able to get survivor benefits. This was something that passed on to her, maybe not in the total 100% compensation financially, but there was financial reward that would be passed on to my mom. You just needed to access. So I tried on my own. I was quite savvy within the VA system, working with the VA system for over 16 years with my dad. And I began the process 4 days after his death. I continued the process almost 2 months while I still had to go back to work in my corporate job, still had to take care of my 95-year-old mom, and I ran up against roadblocks. What happened was, initially I sent in all the paperwork via email, fax, and hard copy.
Wow.
2 different addresses, 2 different fax numbers, and each time I called...
Seriously?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Each time I called, I would get a different fax number or different address.
Every time you call there, they give you literally...
Two different. So, to cover my bases, I sent it to both addresses, both fax numbers. Not only did I do this once, but I did this twice because when I followed up, they said they'd never received the paperwork 3 weeks later. In my mind, 3 weeks later is plenty time.
Especially if you fax.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I sent it in again.
And you're busy, and you're taking care of your mom, and you just lost your dad.
I had no time to mourn my dad. Because I knew financially that this was compensation that she needed to exist in her home of 50 years in Upper Saddle River. So
I heard that. She lived there 50 years and then needed this to pay rent, pay utilities,
Exactly.
pay for everything.
Exactly. It was just basic utilities. It was basic, just care of the home, bringing in whatever resources she needed. After my new numerous phone calls after sending everything in twice and saying that they do not have it. I talked to a supervisor. Supervisor apologized. Supervisor said, send it in again, send it to this fax number, this address, which was one of them that I had sent, but now it's 3 times.
So now saying send it a third time.
Third time.
This is an American hero. This is they're asking a third time. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people would quit at that point because you just get so frustrated and it's time sensitive. And
Right.
I reached out to your office. Explained the situation via email, followed up with a phone call. Your staff immediately contacted me within 24 hours, which I was amazed at. They needed a little more information. They wanted the same documentation that I had
Right.
sent to the VA.
Right.
I felt confident that the office was going to provide some type of resource where we can move this forward and at least find the paperwork on the VA side. And sure enough, the time frame, and the time frame is important because June 14th, I mailed all of my information, faxed, sent it again July 12th, talked to a supervisor July 14th, contacted your office July 26th. From July 26th, there was a resolution the first week of September, which is almost unheard of, a complete resolution where there was closure. So for that, I'm forever grateful, and so is my mom, because again, this was financial funds that should have been just transferred over to a survivor benefit to my mom,
Well,
and was not.
Yeah, I appreciate you being grateful, but frankly, we're the ones who should be grateful, and I really apologize on their behalf that how slow the VA was here. I mean, it's the runaround, and the bureaucracy, and they initially told you it'd be when they finally got through to you. Didn't they tell you it was gonna be 6 months before they?
Yes, and that's the other thing. When I did talk to the supervisor, not only did she say, we finally have your paperwork, but now there's a 6-month backlog plus. And this was prior to COVID. This was before COVID. This was
Right.
in the beginning, July of 2019. They didn't even know about COVID, and a 6-month backlog. And that, again, is when I contacted your office staff and I said, no, this is unacceptable.
Right.
My mother's 95 years old. 6 months, 1 day matters.
Right, of course.
For her getting the funds.
Of course.
And again,
Well, listen, I'm so grateful that you followed up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking care of your mom. That you followed up. That you did the right thing. And the fact is, and part of why we do these discussions is because I want other people to know that if they have a challenge like you did, that they can call us, right? That they should call my office, they should call me,
Yes.
and say, hey, Josh, we got this problem. People do it. I wish we could have sat together before COVID, but we were waiting for COVID and waiting.
Yes.
But people can call. I just want people to know you can call my office in Glen Rock at any time at 201-389-1100. 201-389-1100. In Sussex County, in Newton, you can call me at 973-940-1117 and call us. And you should not have to deal with a runaround like this.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful that you followed through multiple times. But you're right, most people don't have, just like, somehow you found the time with all your stuff, but a lot of people just say, I don't know what to do, right?
Big problem. The VA is a huge bureaucracy, and I have found in the 16 years dealing with it that for the most part it's been very good to my dad, very good. His doctors, appointments. I've had my struggles in other areas, but
he found they took care of him well all those years, right?
Yes, overall.
As we should.
You, as the layperson, need to know where to go because it is such a large bureaucracy. And when you go online, you're overwhelmed at the departments. You're overwhelmed at the forms. So, one, it's accessing the correct forms, accessing the person on the call center who is properly trained to take your questions, and following up. And sometimes even that's not enough, and that's when you have to go to a resource such as your office.
Well, listen, I want to thank you. And is there a good story your dad ever told you about World War II? Like some story that really, of his time there, I'm sure like a lot of veterans, there were some very tough moments, obviously, and moments that he remembers with the people he served with, or did he stay in touch with them at all? Any people he served with?
I do have a story for you, which is quite unique that my dad used to tell me growing up, before Alzheimer's, so I know it's true. He had a brother who also served in the Navy.
Oh, really?
During the same time he did, they enlisted together. They went on.
Where did he grow up?
In Clifton.
Okay.
Patterson originally, and then Clifton.
Okay.
They served on separate ships. And in 1944, the ships passed in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And the captain of each ship, somehow they found out that the ship is going past my dad's ship.
Yeah.
And they tried to get my dad on board, and the waves were too high. It was unsafe. So they allowed my dad and my uncle, my dad's brother, to conference. And mind you, they're in the middle of nowhere, in the Pacific, fighting the Japanese, and they have a conference call together.
Really?
Right.
And this is not the time of Facebook. Right.
No, there was no communication, and to allow that just was for morale, and it was actually printed in the Nantahala newsletter that I found online.
Oh, really? No, really?
Yeah.
You found it?
I did. I found the little blurb, every week they had a
little newspaper, right?
Yeah,
that's
a
amazing.
Newsletter.
You're right.
Yeah, so that was cool.
That's a very cool story.
That's cool. My dad was a very special person. He was also a very good swimmer. And another true story. They threw a man overboard. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
No one would go in and save him. My dad jumped in, and he saved him, and the other guys watched my dad struggle, and they decided, let's go help this guy. They pulled him up on board. It turned out to be the chef's assistant, and my dad says, from there on, I always had what the captain had.
For dinner, really? That's a good story. That's a good story.
True story.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did he ever swim when he came back?
He did. He swam up until his 90s at the Ridgewood Y.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
He was extremely
an amazing man, huh?
Amazing, extremely active. He was a crossing guard for almost 20 years in Waldwick.
So wonderful.
He crossed the little kids, he crossed the high school kids, and some of the high school kids came back to see him when they were in college.
Really?
Yeah, he was very well loved. Very special man. Very special.
Petty Officer Beater, always giving back till the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. People would come to him for their problems. They wouldn't talk to their parents. They'd go to him. We owned a business in Sussex County. The housewives would tell him their
Where in Sussex
problems.
County? Where in Sussex County?
Route 23.
Oh, really?
It's there today. It's called Catch 23 Deli.
I know where that is.
It's right on 23. We had it for 9 years. And then we were the original owners.
Really?
Yes.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just people love
That's hard work.
Yeah, 7 days a week.
Right.
14-hour days.
Unbelievable.
Very hard.
Unbelievable.
And we traveled from Bergen County to Sussex County until I finally, 2 years later, I moved up there. My mom did not want to leave Upper Saddle River, so he traveled back and forth 52 miles each way.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
What a man.
Yeah.
What a family. Send my best to your mom.
I will.
And to your family.
Thank you.
And thank you again for spending time with us.
Thank you so much.
I know how busy you are. It means a lot to me.
Thank you.
And to all, and everyone watching.
And thank you to your staff.
Thank you. Such an honor. Thank you so much.